crazy weekend all around, but your Clemson Tigers were pretty much at the heart of it. I got to say, it was a game that was off my radar, other than knowing the number 6 team in the country was playing, and I just needed to know what was going on. But other than that, I didn't have any thought about watching any of that game. There were too many other good games on at the same time, and then you were in delay forever. So I just kept seeing 7-zip, 7-zip, 7-zip delay. And all of a sudden, I heard about all this drama at the end of the game and had to check in, and Clemson hangs on with a 4th down stand at the goal line.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the odder games I have ever attended, and it was the longest day of my life. I didn't think that game was ever going to end, but it was definitely a very odd and uninspired performance for the most part, especially in that first half. It was just slow going. I know Tony Elliott said after the game, Georgia Tech caught them off guard with a scheme. They were dropping 8 in the coverage and only rushing 3, something Georgia Tech has only done one time under Jeff Collins back in a game a while back, I think last year against UCF. And that kind of caught them off guard. And I know the freshman offensive lineman, he didn't practice for playing up against a nose tackle at all. So that kind of throws everything into whack. But, when you drop in 8 and rushing 3, you basically begging the team to run the ball on you. And Clemson has some success running the ball a little bit, but, when you talking about a teams with, 2 teams with this much of a talent gap between the two, you would think this Clemson team would have been able to run it at will on Georgia Tech in that first half. And that just wasn't the case. They had some success. They were able to move the ball, on the ground a little bit and a little bit in the short passing game. But it was definitely discombobulated. It looked like, and, he basically said they were having to adjust on the fly, and it kind of looked that way. And it just looked out of whack, out of sorts, and it just was not pretty at all.
Yeah, they didn't get shut down on the ground, but like you say, they didn't exactly tear it up. They only had 2 runs over 10 yards. Shipley went for 15. Uiagalelei went for 14. And 3.9 yards per carry isn't exactly tearing it up in college football. So they had a little bit of running room, and Shipley gets his first 2 touchdowns, 88 yards rushing. But my goodness, 284 yards of total offense in that game. And their longest play was 17 yards in the passing game.
Yeah, Clemson's struggling with the explosive plays. I had those numbers somewhere, and I don't remember where they are off the top of my head. But they're one of the worst teams in the country when it comes to the explosive plays. And they didn't. I don't know that they had any in that game the other day. If they did, it wasn't but 1 or 2.
17 yards. That's the longest pass play they had.
So they had 1, but they did not try to attack down the field at all. I think DJ might have thrown 2 balls that traveled further than 10 yards down the field in the air all game long, and both of them were way off target. I noticed the team was dropping 8 guys into coverage. You got a quarterback who's struggling with accuracy, so you don't want to start throwing the ball up for grabs. With these receivers, man, you got to take some shots sometime. We've been told this group of receivers could be the best they've ever had under Dabo Swinney, and you got to let those guys go make some plays at some point. But the way this offense is continuing to struggle, it's just hard to put it into words. It's just not something we're accustomed to seeing. I think DJ's averaging like a little over 5 yards per pass attempt for the entire season. I know Clemson's offense is ranked dead last in the ACC, I think, in yards per attempt and yards per play. And it's just not something Clemson fans have been used to seeing over the last several years. And frankly, it's something that a lot of them are having a hard time coming to terms with right now. There is a lot of heat on I'm not Dabo Swinney, but Tony Elliott, and there's a lot of heat on DJ on the message boards and on social media. Some of it justified, a lot of it not justified. This is an offensive line. I think it all starts with this offensive line. It's just not very good. I saw repeatedly this group get beat by 3 Georgia Tech defensive linemen the other day, and that is not going to win you a whole lot of ball games unless you're playing overmatched opponents. And fortunately, Clemson was Saturday.
Yeah, just looking at it right here, Justin Ross, 7 catches for 61 yards. So he wasn't able to get loose on the dump downs. And then, like you say, they weren't taking him downfield. 16 yards was his last catch, his longest catch, and 8.7 yards per reception. Not much there. They threw it 25 and they ran it 41. So at least they were committed to the run. I'm sure a lot of those were called pass plays, or a few of them. So they were at least committed to the run. But and they didn't turn the ball over. They had 1 turnover, but it's not like there was a turnover fest. If you see that Clemson barely escapes Georgia Tech, you figure, they turned it over like 5 times.
They turned it over twice.
Did they?
One of them, yeah. I don't know if it says 1, it should be twice. Shipley had a fumble and DJ had a fumble, but and DJ's came at a critical time late in that game. But when they were driving the field, looking to at least score 3 more points, but in that first half, I know Clemson was having a little bit of success running the ball with Will Shipley. He was having some success running between the tackles. I think he ended up averaging over 4 yards a carry, had 2 touchdowns. But, if Georgia Tech's consistently dropping 8 defenders in coverage and only rushing 3, to me, that tells me you need to get your quarterback involved in that run game. You got a big 6'5", 250-pound quarterback. And he's not the burner. He's not the fleetest of feet like we saw with Deshaun Watson. He's not as nimble as Trevor Lawrence. But he can give you something similar to what Taj Boyd gave you in the running game. And Taj Boyd was a big factor in the Clemson running game in his later years. I don't see why DJ can't, at the very least, give you some success in short yardage situations. And Clemson just didn't use him at all in the first half. But it was good to see they started getting him involved some in the second half. Late in that third quarter, I saw something that I had not seen all season long. I was looking for it against Georgia. It never came. I think I might have even mentioned it to you, that I kept waiting to see some fire from DJ, from anybody on this offense, really. And we saw it late in that third quarter. They started getting DJ involved in the running game. He was picking up some yards. They drove down the field. They didn't finish the drive. I can't remember what happened right off the top of my head at the end of that drive, but he had some success, and he got fired up. He was getting emotional, and there was some trash talking going on in that field, and Matt Bockhorst was getting fired up. He was firing up some of the offensive linemen. So it was good to see some emotion from that group, and it looked like it kind of flipped the switch. The next possession, when Clemson got it back, they were driving the field again, and a lot of it was on DJ's legs, and that's when he fumbled the ball on that drive. And it was late in the game, and then it kind of was the first step towards all the craziness we saw at the end, which was just crazy. There's no other way to describe it. It was just crazy.
Well, according to the box score, he fumbled it twice. He lost 1, and Shipley fumbled it once, but he got it back.
Yeah,
but
he did. He botched the snap and got it back, and then Shipley fumbled on the last offensive play of the game. And that's something where Clemson's coaching staff's taking a lot of heat. They're backed up at the 1. You just need to run one play and get it out of the end zone. I can't remember. It was just a few seconds left. You run one play, get it out of the end zone, you go down, game's over. Georgia Tech's out of timeouts. When they line up, Clemson never lines up under center. Line up in the shotgun. DJ hands it to Shipley. He gets out the end zone. Fumbles the ball back into the end zone. Georgia Tech recovers, safety, and craziness ensues. But then all of a sudden you got a football game, But if Shipley doesn't fumble that ball, nobody's talking about it. Nobody's questioning the play call. Nobody cares. And I just think Tony Elliott and Dabo Swinney are taking a little bit more heat maybe than they should right now because I really didn't see anything wrong with the play call. I saw some people saying they wish Clemson would have just took the safety. I don't agree with that at all. Their defense has been on the field a lot for that game, and they looked to be getting gassed toward the end. Georgia Tech was moving the ball at the end. That's I wouldn't have wanted them to see him take a safety right there. And, you know, Shipley's your fastest guy. He'd been your best back all day. He had been running it between the tackles. I didn't have any problem with the play call. At a certain point, players have to execute, and that play did not get executed properly.